All right, well, it is 5:32, May 11th, 2021. This is our May regular session meeting of the Monroe County Council, so welcome everybody. I know it doesn't really feel like May. I think last time we met, it felt like the sweltering day in July, and now we're back to March, but that's the way it is in Indiana this time of year. So we'll do a quick roll call vote here, or a quick roll call of all our council members present to ensure we have a quorum, and then we'll move forward with our meeting. So when I call your name, please state that you are present. Councilmember Deckard.
Here.
Councilmember Hawk. Councilmember Iverson.
Here.
Councilmember McKim.
Present.
Councilmember Munson.
Here.
And Councilmember Wiltz.
Here.
All right. So we have a quorum, and we'll move forward with the remaining items on our agenda. And Councilmember Hawk is here with us. We just got done calling the roll, so we have all 7 members here present at the meeting. Next up on our agenda is public comment for items not on the agenda.
Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, I'm sorry. It is the Pledge of Allegiance. That's item number 2. So we will all now, and I believe TSD will get our flag queued up for us. There it is. Thank you very much. We'll all stand now and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you all. And now we'll move on to item number 3, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. Do we have any members joining us here tonight from the public who would like to make public comment? If so, please use the raise hand feature. And it does not appear that we have anyone who would like to make a public comment this evening. So we'll now move on to our agenda adoption. We have a lot of good things, good stuff on this agenda tonight. But I want to make everybody aware there was an error that was discovered on item 11A, the Highway Department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1197-0000 Stormwater Management. The additional amount was advertised correctly, and the request was included in the council packet, but the requested amount was entered onto the agenda incorrectly. So would I be able to have a motion to amend the agenda if there's no other amendments or changes that need to be made?
Move we amend the agenda as President Spoonmore has stated.
Okay.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion or questions?
No.
All right. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
You're unmuted.
Councilor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Councilor Hawk,
Yes.
Councilor Wiltz,
Yes.
Councilor McKim,
Yes.
Councilor Munson,
Yes.
Councilor Deckard,
Yes.
Councilor Iverson.
Yes.
Amended motion passed unanimously.
Great. Thank you very much. And next we'll move on to item 5, which is our department updates. Do we have any departments here with us this evening who would like to provide an update for the council?
Councilmember Spoonmore, I would like to. This is Margie Reich, or County Attorney.
Yes. Welcome, Ms. Rice.
How are you?
Doing great.
Good. So I sent to council members a resolution for us to be able to have electronic meeting participation going forward. So right now we're operating under the governor's executive order, which allows for electronic meeting participation 100% of the time for 100% of the council members or the members of any governing body. However, that's going to change if the executive order expires, set to expire the end of this month. If not extended, will operate under a new law that was passed by the General Assembly. So I prepared a resolution and sent to you. I'm happy to take feedback on that. I would like to go over a few highlights with you just briefly tonight to kind of tell you what I think are some of the more important features of the law. I'm going to try to share my screen with you. Okay, so you should see, this is the resolution that was sent to you. Move this guy around. And get over here. So this is the resolution. I want to get to the law, which I've attached as an exhibit. So rather than, try to rewrite the law into the resolution and perhaps miss something, I just attached the law as an exhibit. Now, if you want to be stricter than the law allows, you certainly can do that. You can't be, more generous than the law allows, or looser than the law allows. But basically, it says this section applies to a governing body of a public agency of a political subdivision, other than there are a couple of carve-outs here, and it says subject to subsection I. All of this language here in strikeout fashion has been stricken by the General Assembly. But it says you may participate in a meeting by any electronic means that does the following. Basically allows you to participate if you can communicate. And I've highlighted the important features. You may participate in any final action taken at the meeting only if the member can be seen and heard. So I think that's something important to remember. You have to be able to be seen and heard if you want to vote. It also says, essentially, if there's some kind of technological failure that prohibits somebody from being able to vote or participate in a vote, the vote can still go forward if there are enough other people without either those electronic communication difficulties or who are physically present to be able to carry the vote. You do have to adopt a written policy, which is why I've drafted this for your review. And it says that written policy may establish procedures that are more restrictive than the procedures in the section. I've just incorporated what the law is for you. If you want to change that, we certainly can. It does say that all votes taken during a meeting must be taken by a roll call vote. So if we have electronic participation, we will continue with the roll call as we have done during COVID. Now, here's something important. A member may not attend more than 50% of the governing body's meetings in a calendar year by means of electronic communication unless the member's electronic participation is due to one of these reasons: military service, illness, death of a relative, or an emergency involving actual threatened injury to persons or property. You also cannot participate in a meeting by electronic communication if the governing body is taking final action on budget. So our budget meetings will still have to be in person, a reduction in personnel, a referendum, increasing a fee or establishing a fee, establishing or increasing a penalty, exercising eminent domain, which rarely comes up, and the council doesn't do that, or establishing, raising, or renewing a tax. Goes on to say that we cannot prohibit a member from attending consecutive meetings by electronic communication. So if they want to do back-to-back meetings electronically, they can. However, if you do that, for every 2 meetings you're meeting electronically, you have to have an in-person meeting. Then you could do 2 more that way. So again, and those are those exceptions. And generally only half of the members can participate electronically. The others have to be present. So you might think about, okay, got a question? Yeah. Hold on.
So do Jeff and Peter. I think
Oh,
they
okay.
have hands raised as well. I will do mine.
Gotcha.
Why don't we do this? Ms. Rice, you can kind of finish the the presentation, and then we'll go in the order that of hands that were raised. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good. So I think I had gone through the highlights. I can pop that back up there if you'd like. Those were really essentially the highlights. I'm expecting that you'll want to take care of this at your work session agenda, get it done before the end of May, just so we're prepared for what happens in June. And again, I can take feedback on this resolution, make changes and send it to you if you'd like. But I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have now.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Rice. And go ahead, Mr. McKim.
Thank you. Excellent summary, and that's very interesting. And I definitely hope that my colleagues will adopt a resolution very similar to that you've presented. Now, you did mention that, but for budget hearings, we wouldn't be able. I don't remember the exact wording we used, but the way I read it is that a final adoption wouldn't be able to be conducted. But we were to have, say, 5 days of budget hearings. One of those, I mean, it would not be unreasonable for a member to maybe participate remotely in one of those 5 or something like that. Is that kind of the way you understand it?
Yes, it is. And I think, again, let me look at that language, but it does say, may not participate in a meeting of the governing body by electronic communication if the governing body is attempting to take final action to adopt a budget. So yeah, we do a whole lot of preliminary work before you're taking the final action to adopt the budget. And so all of those things, members could participate electronically.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Mr. Iverson.
So I have 2 questions. First of all, does this apply to the term governing body? Does it apply to boards and commissions as well?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
so all boards and commissions need to adhere to this as well. And then
Yeah.
the second question is there a stipulation that requires 50% of a governing body to be present during a meeting? Or is it just that 50% of the time that one member has to be at a meeting?
I believe it's 50% have to be at a meeting as well. So
So does that mean if less than 50% of a governing body is present, there is no quorum?
look, hold on.
That's the way I understand it. That is my understanding of it.
Yes, mine too, but let me, so let's pull this back up here. And share my screen again. I can't believe I forgot to go over the purple words. I put words in purple, and you know me, it's my favorite color. But so the words, let's find it here. So at least 50% of the members of the governing body must be physically present at a meeting. So you have to have 50%, and then a member of the governing body may not attend more than 50% of the governing body's meetings in a calendar year by means of electronic communication. So we will have to keep track. I mean, there is also a provision in here that says memorandum has to be kept to say who's participating by electronic. So here, the memorandum prepared under section 4, we have to state the name of each member of the governing body who was physically present at the place, who participated by electronic means, who was absent, identify the electronic means of communication, and by which members participated. So if it was, via Zoom, I guess, or iPhone, I suppose. So the public attended and observed the meeting if the meeting was not held in executive session. So we have to say that the members of the public attended. And as you know, our TSD has made a lot of changes to the Nat U Hill room to allow hybrid participation. So I think we're in good shape for that regard, but this will have to be something that we keep track of to know who's participating, how, and make sure that we don't run afoul of these.
Okay, Ms. Wiltz.
Yes, kind of off of Peter's question, mine's similar. And so my question is about the fact that we are on some boards and commissions that then also meet. And let's say I was out of town for a week and I had 3 meetings that week that I now could possibly attend via Zoom. But if those are not, if they're not all county council meetings of this group, is that okay? I think that's my question. If one of those meetings is a board or a commission, does that count with that only 2 in a row thing? Does that make sense?
Well, I think every governing body has to adopt their own rules for how they're going to do electronics. So I think each governing body is, you're going to be calculating your participation in, let's say, the Environmental Commission differently than we're calculating your participation in the county council, because they're separate governing bodies. So for example, I guess let's say, for example, there's a board and commission who says, I don't want to participate electronically. We want everybody to come back, in-person meetings. That's certainly their choice, and they do not have to adopt a policy that allows for these. And then this law would not apply to them.
And if we were to assume that all of Monroe County's governing bodies and all their forms were to have their policy reflect exactly what's in this law, that would mean that we couldn't we couldn't attend virtually more than 2 meetings in a row without then coming to a meeting in person.
Again, and and maybe
body.
It's per body, it's per governing body. So we're going to isolate the board and commission and just count, the 2 meetings for the Environmental Commission separately than what we're doing for your, say, county council. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. And I don't know, then it makes me wonder, did I misunderstand Peter's question about the quorum, or did I answer your question the right way, Peter?
I think, well, let me ask it again. And if it's not clear, then maybe everyone else can chime in too. If 50% of a governing body is there electronically, but not in physical presence, is a quorum present?
No.
If you are, well,
No.
I think, let me look, let me do a word search here real quick.
Percent have to be there in person, and that's
Yeah, the point of this, part of the point of this law is to ensure that boards basically still do meet in person, even if the occasional exception is meant for
So here's
remote access.
So this says, here's the word quorum. Allows the public to simultaneously attend and observe the meeting. However, this subdivision does not apply to a meeting held in executive session, subject to subsection I. Governing body member who participates in the meeting by an electronic means of communication shall be considered present for purposes of establishing a quorum, but may participate in any final action taken at the meeting only if the member can be seen and heard.
But go to your purple. It was your purple text that I think is the relevant section here.
right, because
That section muddies it.
some boards may have far more than 7,
At least 50% must be physically present at a meeting. So you have to have 50% physically present at a meeting.
and that's a quorum. That's
So
4.
for our purposes, it has to be 4 members have to be present, which is that's higher than the 50% threshold, but there's no way we can be exactly 50%.
So if you look where the word quorum is here, it does say that a governing body member who participates in the meeting by electronic means is present for purposes of establishing a quorum. So if you're there by electronic participation, you still count towards a quorum, but you can only take final action if we can see you and hear you. So I think they're trying to prevent, fraudulent voting, perhaps. You have to be able to be seen and heard for your vote to count. But I think your participation electronically does count you for a quorum. Now here, let's see. It goes
But
on.
not if fewer than 50% shows up. I mean, that's
Right,
the,
you
the
don't-
whole point of this law is to make sure that that governing bodies don't decide to just meet virtually forever. That is the whole point of this law, that we have to have a majority of the member, more than 50% of the members physically present to have a meeting. Otherwise,
You don't have a meeting.
we don't have
Yeah.
a meeting. Exactly.
Right. So yes, so you have, but you do have to, and I guess, yes, you do have to read it with this, as Jeff says, this purple language here. At least 50% of the governing body must be physically present at a meeting. Now, the other thing that made me think about, again, tell me, is there any other means that you guys think you would be participating? Again, I guess you could tune in by phone, but if you're participating by phone, your votes aren't going to count if it's just a voice,
Right.
right? So if you want to participate and vote, you're going to need to have a video available for the voting.
So your question is there another means that we would use?
Yeah, I guess there's not other than, I mean, I can't think of anything other than usually we use, everybody's got a laptop and they're doing it by Zoom. I guess suppose somebody might participate, take this off here, by phone, but if you're just doing it by a regular phone without a video, you're not going to be able to vote. Your vote.
Well, I mean, we could theoretically use a different technology. We could use Teams or
Right.
WebEx or some other, Zoom is what we're using right now.
Yeah,
That's
no,
not in the law. We could use some other platform for video communication.
Yeah.
but I mean,
But Peter, I think that gets to you. I mean, does that really answer your question? You have to
Yeah,
have
yes, I
50%
think-
physically present.
We could really nitpick here, but I think that in general, I think that Jeff and Margie, you're in agreement that we all need to be present as much as possible. And I think we're all in agreement on that. I think that's important. So
yeah. Now, I also wrote into the resolution, and this is something you guys want to think about. I wrote into the resolution that staff can be virtual. We don't vote, so it doesn't matter. That staff can be virtual. If that's something obviously the way that I wrote it is, the council president can dictate sort of what staff needs to be there. If you guys feel differently, communicate that. But certainly I know staff across the county have appreciated being able to participate virtually. I know that, especially plan commission meetings and BZA meetings go very late sometimes. Now, obviously, if you guys want staff to be present, all you have to do is ask and staff can be there. I did have a great question raised by one of the council members, which was who gets direct, for example, if the auditor staff is present at a council meeting? Yes, it was Councilmember that she raised a great question. And I think that, the supervisor of the employee gets to obviously be involved in that. I would think the auditor would be able to dictate the schedules for her staff. But I do think as the statutory clerk for the council, the auditor should consider your wishes in making those decisions.
Councilor Hawk.
Yes, just as a comment regarding staff, I think to leave that up to the council president puts way too much pressure on the president. I don't think that is fair to the person that we honored to be our president to put that kind of pressure there. It could get real personal for them. So whether it's this president or whatever president in the future, that's just my thought. I would not want to have to be the one to say, you get to stay home and you have to show up and whatever. And we've got a lot of budget things that many times we'll need them to be in the office. And so then you have to decide, pick and choose your favors. So I think that's asking a lot, but I don't know how else you might work it out. The other thing that I was concerned about was, of course, we'd have to stay very in touch with whoever's going to schedule this, because hopefully we will all plan to be there in person. Absolutely. Not that it hasn't been wonderful not to have to worry about where you're going to park and how you're going to get back to your car. That's been great. But the public expects to see us in person, face to face. But I wanted to make sure that if the courthouse, if the commissioners are still saying the courthouse is not open to the public routinely, how do we have a public meeting? Because I believe that says that if we have a public meeting in the courthouse, that the public can come to speak. So then how does that work out? Or am I?
There will have to be a public meeting room available. The commissioners, if the executive order, if it expires the end of May and this law takes over, there's going to have to be a physical space for you guys to be. So, the commissioners, I drafted a resolution for the commissioners, one for the council, and then kind of a generic one for other boards and commissions. And I sent it to the other attorneys in county legal for them to adapt for the boards and commissions that they serve. So I know we've already had a reach out from Solid Waste District, and we addressed their questions. But yes, the commissioners will be, looking at this as well. I expect to be talking to them about the resolution I drafted for them tomorrow.
I know that we've got some others that would like to, Ms. Munson, and then a couple more after, and then we can go back to you, Marty.
So my question is procedural. Now that I think we've understood this, I think it's important that we have a work plan where we notify the scheduling officer, whoever that is, as to whether we will not be present in person. And I just think we need to have some way to arrange things so that we can be sure that we have 4 people present and there's no surprises to anybody.
It's a good idea. We'll need to get a good system in place for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. McKim, were you next? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, first of all, just to address Councilor Munson's issue right there. Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, in the Plan Commission, for example, that where we haven't had that issue with the county council with quorums very much, but with the Plan Commission, sometimes having a quorum is actually an issue. And the staff really makes an effort before the meeting to get Plan Commission members to confirm whether or not they're going to be attending. And so it sounds like in this case, it's not going to be attending versus not attending. It's going to be attending in person, attending remotely, or not attending. And it's just, it will be another job of the staff. But I think that's probably a really good idea. And so that, so we'll always know by the time of the meeting, we'll know if we're going to have an issue with a quorum or not. And I'm just going to say, as far as staff participating remotely, I'm totally in favor of that. I think that is a real advantage of us having discovered how well these electronic technologies work. Staff can, in fact, in some ways, they may be able to perform their job more effectively. It's easier for them to give presentations from their own computer, to be able to share their screen. I think there are a lot of opportunities there. I think the only concern is if we need to make sure that we have TSD staff available to manage the room, because clearly we're going to be doing hybrid meetings where there are remote participants and remote public comment and in-person public comment. And so we need to make sure that there are enough staff there to actually manage the room. But I think in terms of staff, county department heads presenting their case, I actually think they may have better access and be able to do a better job remotely. So I'm all in favor of allowing that when appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, did you have a question or a comment?
I had a question. I'm going to withdraw it so we can keep moving on the agenda. I will say I do agree with Councilor McKim. I think the public law was meant around elected officials. I think we can honor that quite easily. I do want to make sure that the public understands how this is working when you have some members that are off and some that are not. But I think we can easily do that by being completely clear about it, posting that on websites, etc. But as far as staff, I'm always minded about people that have to stand around and watch us talk. And I'm also mindful that we are, we're having a good discussion about how we're going to meet while people stand around and watch us talk. So I want to be honorable to that time, and it is 6:02 on the agenda.
Ms. Hawk?
Yes, I just want to make it clear, if I make sure I understand, that the public will still have Zoom meetings, whether for the public, no matter what. We can all be there in person, and the public can still participate and watch these meetings by Zoom. Is that correct or not?
Yes, that's my understanding, that that's what TSD has been working to do, to make sure that all of our meetings are available to the public that way. Then TSD can correct me if I'm wrong about that.
No, that's correct. I know Eric has been working really hard on making the Nat U Hill room a hybrid room.
So they can be there in person, see us face to face if that's what they want, or if they prefer to watch at home, they can also do that. And I think the public would appreciate that.
So is the Nat U Hill room now ready and equipped for a return to in-person meetings, or at some point very soon?
I don't know the status of it. I know the hybrid is the goal, but I don't know the current status, unfortunately.
Got it. Okay. And then just one last, go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
We'll find that out tomorrow. I'll find out the status.
Okay.
Of it,
Okay. And then just one last question. So if one of the members of the governing body attends fewer than 50% of the meetings in person, what happens then? Does that like invalidate their previous votes, or are they no longer eligible to vote on it, even though they're elected?
Yeah,
it's unclear, right? There's just not a, okay. Because I've always kind of, we've heard that and seen issues in around the state before where, elected officials may not come in to the office, or, and nobody can really tell another elected official what their hours are and how to, be present for their jobs. That raises some interesting questions. I don't know if there's a way to get answers to that or not, but would be curious.
yeah, I'll certainly reach out to the State Board of Accounts and see if they've had that question yet. See if
Okay.
they know.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion on this? We've got a lot to think about, but I do agree and want to get this on our work session agenda for later this month for a final vote on policy. So that will be coming up. In the meantime, Ms. Rice, just have any questions or concerns or anything directed towards you?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Perfect. And thanks so much for putting together that draft. That was really, really helpful. And thanks for the information here tonight. Okay, do we have any further department updates for council this evening? And it looks like we do. We have Ms. Caudle with us. Welcome.
It looks like Penny is unmuted, but it's not showing any voice activity, so I suspect Zoom has selected the wrong microphone.
Yeah, we're not able, you're inaudible right now if you're trying to reach us.
No.
There we go.
Oh, did we get it?
Yep, got it.
Okay. Very, very good. Yep. I think I just it wasn't plugged in all the way.
Yep.
I really just wanted to let everybody know there's been a lot of questions with Senate Bill 5 going into effect, and the commissioners were very proactive, and a couple of weeks ago approved our health regulations. So there is no change in Monroe County at the moment. Our current regulations are still in effect. The Board of Health does meet on Tuesday to assess what our current status is and determine if there are any other changes that will happen to those regulations. So I just wanted to make sure that I shared that. And for anybody that hasn't been paying attention, perhaps that the FDA did grant approval for Pfizer in the 12 to 15-year-olds. We are expecting tomorrow that the ACIP and the Center for Disease Control will also approve that and then provide guidance to us. So we will be ready to take those people 12 to 15 whenever they are approved. Certainly with Pfizer vaccine, that is our site at Assembly Hall. And so people will be able, whenever that opens up, you cannot schedule an appointment yet for that age group. But as soon as that opens up, you will be able to do that at Assembly Hall. And we are working with our schools to figure out some on-site clinics and how that will work. So we've got that in the works, but we are waiting on the guidance that will come with that, and then we will announce that. But we have a clinic with Pfizer that is ready to see anybody that's eligible. So you can make an appointment. That makes things go really fast. But if it's easier for you to do a walk-in appointment, you are welcome to do that. And then I would lastly say we did 2 outreach clinics in the past week. We did one at Crestmont Boys and Girls Club. And then we did one at the Convention Center on Monday. And we did about 60 vaccinations at each site. So those went very, very well. And we will continue to do outreach events.
Excellent. Thank you so much for the update and for joining us tonight, Ms. Cottle. I want to check with council members and see if they have any questions for you while you're here. Anybody have any questions? Okay.
Just that my daughter is turning 12 on the 18th, and I plan on taking her as a birthday present to get a shot. So.
Aww.
Well, you know,
My kid once.
my husband did that to our son for his, one of his vaccines. I think it may have been hepatitis or something, but for one of his. So, yep. Show them that you love them.
Very exciting though. Very exciting.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. Yeah, if there's nothing further from any council members, we'll say so long and farewell to you, Ms. Cottle. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Okay, so that concludes our department updates, I believe, for the evening. Do we have any further department updates? Okay, does not appear so. So we'll now move on to council liaison updates. Do we have any council members who have reports for us this evening they'd like to share? All right, up next then will be our aviation department, and we have Mr. Laverty joining us for item number 7 here.
Council, I move to approve the aviation department's request for additional appropriations in Fund 8101-0000 Airport Improvement Program in the amount of $23,000 in the supplies category and $34,162 in the services category, for a total of $57,162.
Second.
All right, well, welcome, Mr. Laverty. Tell us a little bit more about this additional appropriation request.
Hey, thanks for having me this evening, and good evening to everybody. The Federal Aviation Administration issued the Airport Coronavirus Response Grant, which favored airports with air traffic control towers. There was 2 portions to this grant. There was approximately $34,000 that goes strictly to air traffic control tower operations, and then $23,000 that goes to airports our size to assist in COVID related operations like contractual cleaning, and whatever kind of expenses we may have incurred with distancing people and any kind of supplies. So the airport has 4 years to spend these dollars. So we're in no rush right now to implement them to anything, any one specific project. Earlier in 2020, we were looking at perhaps upgrading the radios in the tower, and just an off-the-cuff preliminary number that we were looking at was going to be $100,000 for radios. And then when we were looking at the first federal aviation grant that we received, I was thinking that would be a good down payment, a little seed for that radio project. But we, oddly enough, we have been recently, just a few months after I started thinking about that, we were contacted by an FAA contractor who is apparently tasked with designing a new radio system for that tower. And which came as a wonderful surprise. We had no idea that was coming. There's still some questions that have to be answered about that project and whether or not we're truly eligible. The contractor who was told by the FAA to start working on our project has some questions too. So we're not in the clear yet. So my preference is to kind of hold on to this money until we have a clear, definitive answer on what's going to happen with those radios. But the tower radios that are in there now, they're very old. They still work very well for us, but when we look ahead at maintaining those radios in the years to come, parts are becoming more and more scarce. Our service technician who services them right now is having to source parts from China, and he said he's noticing that they're becoming more and more scarce. So that is definitely on our radar. And that's a little bit of a department update too, I guess. But anything else? Any questions about the specific grant here tonight?
Yes, thank you. Do we have any questions from council? Any discussion on this? Looks like I saw Ms. Wiltz's hand first and then Ms. Munson.
Thank you. First, I'd like to acknowledge that our airport administrator said something was on his radar, and I just think that's funny. So I will move on though, I promise. Mine is just a logistical question, maybe not even for the department, and maybe it's about us, but I know we were taking care to put anything related to COVID in funds that had something that said COVID on them, or something that said CARES or something, is there a need to do that kind of earmarking for these monies as this type of thing comes in, or just kind of throwing it out there for the group?
Do we have, is Kim on here? Because I believe Kim had that conversation with our financial manager, Amy Garst.
My understanding is that aviation is a totally different animal than the county itself. And so their COVID money can go directly into this airport improvement. So we're okay with that.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you.
The federal, I think you guys are well aware, the federal government really hates the idea of our dollars touching each other. So
yeah.
Okay, Ms. Munson.
So my question was very similar to Councilor Wiltz's, and I just wondered if this is a cost reimbursable type grant for expenditures that are related to COVID, or if this is if these are funds that can be directed to new projects, for example, radio improvements.
yeah, it's a reimbursable. So we would enter receipts into the Delphi system and then be reimbursed that way through the federal government.
Thank you.
Ms. Hawk.
Yes, with the information we learned just today, what I had hoped for was that we would be able to use some of this money that we're receiving from federal government to pay off this debt at the airport, any other debts that might come along. But that's not going to be allowed according to the latest rules that Ms. Rice sent to us. So sorry, Carlos, I tried.
Yeah, we tried pretty hard. We had you saw we had a little bit of an outreach program, and we were doing what we could.
Got it. Any additional questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll see if there's any public comment on this request. There's no public comment, so we will have a roll call vote, please.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore.
Yes,
Motion passed 7-0.
thank you.
You have a good night. Thank
You
you.
too. Okay, up next is item 8, our planning department.
Council, I move to approve the planning department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 1000-0079 General Fund Planning in the amount of $69,699.56 in the service category.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Welcome, Jackie.
Hi, welcome. Thank you all for having me. This is a request as shown in the packet for funds that we did not encumber in 2020. So we're hoping to get reappropriated the funds for our contract with McBride Dale Clarion. And just a general update that I put in there, we're substantially complete with parts 1 of 3 of this county development ordinance, which is being assisted by the McBride Dale Clarion Associates. And so we have an approved $105,000 contract, and we need the $69,699.56 to proceed with the contract as approved. So we're asking for that additional appropriation because those funds reverted to the general fund when we failed to encumber them at the end of 2020. So I'm happy to take any questions that you have.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. McKim.
Yeah, so just, I totally support this. I think I let the council know when this appropriation request went out that this really wasn't a net increase, but is it still the understanding that Module 2 is really going to move forward seriously when we're able to meet face-to-face, that was really the preference of the Plan Commission to not make major progress on modules 2 and 3 until we can meet face-to-face, because those are going to be the modules that are going to, I would think, encourage more public comment and public participation.
Yeah, good question, Jeff. We actually, staff is in charge to kind of try and save money for the county of doing the zoning map. So we've completed the first initial draft of that zoning map, and we're hoping to start out with township trustees and then start as time allows and more vaccinations happen and it becomes safer to do so. We're going to hit the road with those maps. So absolutely, we think that Module 2, which includes the zoning map and the use table, will be better to be done, either giving people the option to do a Zoom option, but also having in-person meetings where people can look at maps and point out, their properties and things like that. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Deckard, yes.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for coming here to talk to us about this. I guess my question is on that public component, because we've hopefully got some public that are watching right now. We hear all the time from people, I didn't know this was going on. I didn't know the council did that or this, or good heavens, from everything affecting our safety and health and all sorts of things. We're really trying to get information out. If a member of the public wanted to participate in this, and I suspect some will, where's the best place for them to watch, stay tuned, to know, other than CATS meetings? Because I'm not convinced that CATS meetings are always how the public is finding out information about what's going on.
Yeah, that's a good question, Trent. We have our website, the county website will also direct you to this, but monroecdo.com, very quick and easy. There's a public input list, and you can essentially give your input in the chat of that submission and put your email, and you'll go on the listserv that we send out each time we're going to do public engagement. We do an email. And we've learned pretty well over the time period how to make sure that doesn't end up in your spam mail. So thank you, TSD, but we've gotten pretty good at sending out communications once we're ready to have meetings or get involvement. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Ms. McKim.
I just want to say for the record that there are precisely 2 members of the public on today's Zoom, one of which is cats. So cats may be the primary way to get the word out, at least if we want to do it through this meeting.
Ms. Wilkes.
Thanks. I am curious if someone wanted to see the maps. When might they be able to do that? Just maybe on their own, or irrespective of the public involvement meetings.
Yeah, so if you, again, go to that monroecdo.com website, we have a tab that says maps. And if you click on that, we plan on putting it as an overlay on Google Earth. So you could actually zoom in and see pretty good resolution of the your property, and then it clicks and says what the zoning is. Mm-hmm. And then we're hoping to have more of an interactive, like showing you what it's changing from, and then eventually a link to click to say this is the policies that pertain to that zone.
And that the timing for that is?
I would say probably look for it by the end of this month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What up?
Great, thanks.
All right, any other questions, comments? Any public comment? Oh, we do have a taker. Mr. Shelton, welcome.
Good evening, Council, and proud to be a member of the public tonight. The Chamber certainly wants to support this. This, just for context, I'm sure most of you know, maybe all, that this is the part of an effort that is that we supported, that was funded at the amount of $250,000. So we certainly want to approve this to get it finished. And I only say that because during the Ordinance Review Committee meeting last night, there was some discussion, or maybe it was in the administrative meeting of the Plan Commission, that maybe we ought to stop this and redo the comp plan and then go back at this again. Mr. McKim can probably illuminate you on that a little more. But we certainly think this needs to be done. And we also offered to use the communication vehicles that the Chamber has to help publicize these things, and encouraged Mr. Wilson, who was discussing the problem of basically telling people what's going to be happening over and over and over and over, because that's what Mr. Deckard says happens all the time, as you well know. And we would be happy to help in any way we can to get the word out. We've got a little newsletter. We've got a heck of a mailing list, and be happy to use it to help alert the public that things are going to happen. So the Chamber supports this. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Shelton. And suggestions as well, too. We'll follow up on those. Ms. Hawk, yes.
Yes, if you also could do something that we could share on Facebook that would give links, because people will look at that quicker than they're going to go to the county website or any of the other things. And you'd be surprised with each of us, if we all share it, and if we all have 500 or so people that look at our Facebook sites, that might be a way to get information out, because just as Councilmember Deckard said, we can do it and try to encourage public participation, but they wait until after it's happened before they really come to complain. And that's really almost too late. So whatever we can do to help share the news.
Yeah, we have that's a good point, Marty, and Jim will take you up on that. We try to make sure that we put the information out on our platforms first and then share that information so it's not too much of a game of telephone or multiple sources of information. But we do have a Facebook page and we have been sharing items on that as well. And so I'll work with Kim and whoever, if the council has a Facebook page and the commissioners, happy to connect those dots and have you guys reshare that. That'd be great.
Yeah, we can put it on our Facebook page. We have our advocacy page, and so we have a number of vehicles that we'd be happy to share that info with people.
Great.
Well, and I think Marty has more followers than all the rest of us combined. So she should be able to.
That's probably true.
Hopefully she can get the word out.
They're getting tired of looking at mine. My puppy dog's not on there anymore. So.
All right. Any other questions or comments from council? Actually, no, I think we're beyond that now. We're into public comment and we've wrapped that up. So we will do a roll call vote on the request.
Okay.
On the motion to approve additional appropriations in Fund 1000-0079. Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor McKim.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, and now is item B for the planning department.
Council, I move to approve the planning department's request for a category transfer in Fund 1000-0079 General Fund Planning in the amount of $3,617 from the services category to the personnel category.
Second.
All right.
Yes, thank you all. So this is a fund transfer that allows for the last month's approval of our office manager moving from 35 hours to 40 hours per week. Kim put together a really nice difference of how much it's going to cost. And so this is the remaining amount of funds that we need to make sure that we are able to meet those salary needs for the 40 hours for the rest of the year.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? Yes, Ms. Wells.
I assume this means that this position will be budgeted at 40 hours from here on out, like next year, and
Yes.
that's your plan. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Any public comment? We'll do a roll call vote, please.
You did.
On the motion to approve a category transfer in Fund 1000-0079. Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you all for your support and time. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Up next is item 9, emergency management.
Council, I move to approve the Emergency Management Department's request for an additional appropriation in Fund 8145-9620 EMPG in the amount of $4,850 in the services category.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Moore, joining us from the road, it appears. Welcome.
I am. Thank you so much for having me. I came to you in 2020 prior to COVID and had received this grant. It was for a training grant. We asked for a fund and appropriation then. You were so kind to do so. And then because of COVID, that money did not get spent. It got an extension. And so we plan to spend that money this year. So I am now back to ask for that fund to be recreated in the calendar year of 2021. so that we can attend the National Homeland Security Conference. And it is from August 30th to September 2nd. And we are excited to go and be able to learn about lessons learned from COVID and other ways to help local government. And I will take any questions in this regard.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Where's the conference going to be?
It is in Vegas.
All right.
So,
So boring.
Kate and Allison are slight nervous about leaving little Indiana and headed to the big city of Vegas together, but
Good place to go for conferences. A lot of conference space in Vegas. All right. Any further questions or comments? Is there any public?
I just want to say that it's incidental to Vegas that I was just in Vegas for business travel a few weeks ago, and I was actually really impressed with how strict they were on masking, and I mean they really seemed to do a good job of getting things back opened up and keeping business flowing, but yet keeping people safe. And I witnessed several incidents while walking through casino of security, making sure that people were behaving properly. And so, yeah, I was really impressed.
It's good to hear.
Very good. All right. Anything further? Do we have any public comment on this request? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve additional appropriations in Fund 8145-9620. Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Good. Thank you. Have a good evening, Ms.
Thank you
Moore.
for your time. You too.
All right. Up next is item 10, Prosecutor's Office.
Council, I move to approve the prosecutor's request for a midpoint hire of the Sex Crimes Deputy Prosecuting Attorney in Fund 1170-0009, Lit Public Safety, and Fund 8123-9621, Stop Grant, account line 13425.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Welcome to our prosecutor, Erica Oliphant, who's joining us tonight, as well as Prosecutor's Office Executive Director, Beth Hamlin.
Thank you. All right, so we have an outgoing sex crimes deputy prosecuting attorney. Her last day is May 21st. And so I have interviewed a candidate that I would like to hire who has knowledge, skills, and abilities above those typically expected of a new hire, and really above what she would have after 3 years of employment with my office. She worked for 3 years as a public defender in the Marion County Public Defender's Office. She was a supervisor in that position. Work as a public defender are transferable and applicable to those of a deputy prosecutor. So she is doing a lot of similar things, such as using and referencing Indiana code, interviewing witnesses, consulting with experts for testimony, negotiating plea agreements, bringing cases to trial, and that manner of things. Prior to her work as a public defender, she spent about 2.5 years in the Marion County Prosecutor's Office as a certified legal intern. And during that, she worked with special victims cases specifically, so similar to what she would be doing here in a sex crimes position. She was trained in the neurobiology of trauma, so she can provide trauma-informed victim service. She represented the state in jury trials, bond reviews, suppression hearings. Those are hearings involving constitutional rights of defendants, sentencing hearings, and the like, with attorney supervision. She assisted with preparing direct examination, opening statements, and closing arguments on several major felony trials while in that capacity. She also assisted with victim and witness contact, preparing for trial, and completing research, and produced legal memoranda for the state of Indiana. Most recently, she worked as a private practice attorney from November 2020 to present, handling criminal and family law matters. She has tried about 20 felony cases to juries. And so given her skills and abilities, what she's been doing up to this point, I am requesting that she be paid at a 3-year level. We have been recently struggling a little bit with attracting well-qualified candidates for our deputy prosecuting attorney positions. I'm not sure if it has to do with the economy being in shape that attorneys can make more money elsewhere, or if it is something to do with prosecution specifically, but we've not received a lot of applications for some of our open positions recently. And so with her being such a qualified candidate, I would really like to offer her this benefit in hopes that she will stay with us for a time. This is an extremely difficult and stressful caseload. And, I think that it is deserving of this level of pay. It will not require an additional appropriation, as we have budgeted at the same level for the outgoing deputy prosecutor. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions or discussion from council members on this request? I think it's a kind of a textbook example of why we have this policy, and looks like you've identified an excellent person for the role, and I'm happy to support it. Ms. Hawk.
Yes, I just wanted to say a big thank you that you took the time to go through all of the qualifications that you've looked at. And I think that helps not just the council, but this enormous amount of public participation we have today. But I think it's important that you do that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Hawk.
Ms. Wiltz?
I was just going to second what Councilor Hawk said. I was thinking as you were describing her experience, 2 things. First of all, if we have any questions from other departments on how to make their case for a midpoint hire, we should point them to the recording of this meeting. And secondly, I'm curious, do you have a competency framework that you use like in your profession, or are you literally just pulling from the experience and building it yourself?
I don't know that we have a set rubric or framework. I know the job. I've been doing it for 12 years, so I get a feel for what kind of experience is going to be most important in getting the job done. And I present what I think is going to be the most important and compelling parts of their experience. Certainly if any other departments wanted a hand in making these requests, I'd be happy to help. But, I also owe a lot to my executive director, Beth Hamlin. I think you all know we travel as a team, and there's a good reason for that. She keeps me together. So.
Well, thank you. It was nicely done.
Thank you, Councilor Wiltz.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any public comment? Looks like we have one. Mr. Shelton, yes, welcome back.
Thank you. Just want to say, as the public representative, I'm convinced.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. I appreciate that.
Great validation here. Very good. Okay, any other, I think there's anybody else in the public in the meeting. So we'll do a roll call vote this time.
On the motion to hire at midpoint with a split salary in Fund 1170-0009 and Fund 8123-9621. Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. And now we'll move on to the second part of this, item B.
Yeah.
Council, I move to approve the prosecutor's request to amend the 2021 salary ordinance in Fund 1170-0009 Lit Public Safety 50% split and Fund 8123 9621 Stop Grant 50% split and amend the account line 13425 Sex Crimes Deputy Prosecuting Attorney 35 hours EXE2 exempt to a midpoint higher status.
Second.
All right, good catch there on that. I was thinking that, I was like, is that my phone number that's listed on there? It wasn't. You caught that. Very nice. Okay, so we'll now, is there any additional information that you have on this piece of it? Probably.
No, this is really just a means to effect what the council has just approved.
Yep, very good. Okay, any questions or comments? Any public comment? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve amending the 2021 salary ordinance in Fund 1170-0009 and Fund 8123-9621. Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz,
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
All right,
Thanks, everybody.
absolutely. You all have a good evening.
You too.
Okay, and next up is our Highway Department, item 11.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for the creation of new account lines and to simultaneously approve additional appropriations in Fund 1197-0000 Stormwater Management in the amount of $76,736 in the personnel category, $20,000 in the services category, and $50,000 in the capital category for a total of $146,736.
Second.
Okay, welcome, Ms. Ridge.
Good evening. I'm laughing. I just got a from Mr. McKim, I think wanting to put me on the spot for something. So anyway, you guys, we went through the process to create this new stormwater inspector position. You approved the position last month, so we are back to be able to ask for the additional to fund that that position. We will also need a vehicle for that person to be able to do site inspections. The $20,000 for the gas, oil, and lube, we were looking at the budget and we have spent quite a bit on our gas, oil, and lube at this point. So we started kind of looking back at what the difference was between last year and this year. COVID, we never had our street sweepers out last year. We were unable to with the limited crews and gasoline cost. Diesel fuel and regular gasoline. So we're using more equipment, and with the cost increase, that's what the $20,000 for the gas, oil, and lube purchase or additional is for. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. We do have the job posted. It closes this Friday. We've received some good applicants. So we will start the process of interviewing and hopefully get somebody on board as soon as possible.
Excellent. Thank you. Any questions or comments from council for Ms. Ridge?
One of the reasons why we did the increase in the stormwater fee.
Yep. Ms. Munson?
Yes. Will the $20,000 for gas, oil, and lube cover the expenses for the rest of the year?
We think so. I think we kind of looked at the overall and what we have used so far. And since I was coming to this meeting this evening, we went ahead to include that amount. We haven't exhausted the full account line, but it's low. And so once we realized that we were running both of the street sweepers continuously, so that we realized what the cost increase was.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further from council? Do we have any public comment? And we'll do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to approve new account lines in Fund 1197-0000. Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk,
Yes.
Counselor Iverson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, and next up is item B.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request for fund-to-fund transfers of cash from certain highway funds to newly established highway projects grants, which is detailed on the agenda, item 11B, sections 1 through 5.
Second.
All right, I like how we do that.
Me too.
It saved us about 30 minutes. Ms. Ridge.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is the process to set up some of our federal aid projects as grant funds, as stated by the State Board of Accounts. This is how these funds should be set up. So we're actually needing to transfer the cash from our existing, it would be from either local road and street, our cumulative bridge, our major bridge, and our West Side TIF district into these existing newly created grant funds to be able to pay for either design right away or construction costs on some of these that have already gone to letting.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McKim.
Yeah, I not that I want to make the meeting any longer than it needs to be, but actually, can you just give maybe just a couple of sentences about each of these projects? I think everybody would like to know kind of where we are on each of these big projects.
Absolutely. So the first item on the agenda is transferring into the Vernal Pike line and the Curry Woodyard Smith Road intersection improvement. The Vernal Pike Connector Road is ready to go into right-of-way acquisition at this time. We've completed the design work. On the Curry Pike Woodyard Road Smith Pike intersection, that's going to be a dog bone roundabout, double roundabout. We just went to letting in April 5th. The construction cost came in at 2.7, which was just a little bit higher than our engineer estimate, but with all the construction in the area, we were very thrilled with that amount. Milestone Contractors is the company or the contractor that will be building that. To 2021 will be used as utility relocations for that intersection because we have a lot of utilities. Duke has 2 major items to relocate in that area. So 2022 will be the main construction of the Dogbone roundabouts. The Fullerton Pike, item number 2, that's Fullerton Pike Phase 3. It's actually to connect Rockport Road to the existing roundabout at Roger Street and Gordon Pike. We will begin the right-of-way acquisition begins July 1st on that project with, I believe it's 17 property owners that we will be acquiring right away. Item number 3 is our major bridge fund into Fullerton Pike. That's to build the bridge portion of the Fullerton Pike Phase 3 project. At this time, I believe it's over a 500-foot bridge that's being required through DNR. From our Cume Bridge budget into bridge inspections, Baby Creek Bridge and Rockport Bridge. Bridge inspections is something we are required to do. It's a 4-year cycle. So that's not an option. That's to inspect our 154 bridges. And then we put those into a cycle for us to build our 5-year bridge plan and what bridges we choose to put into like a NOFA call, notice of funding availability with NDOT. Or some of the smaller bridges we can do with a smaller contractor, not federal aid. Baby Creek Bridge, that was just awarded for a NOFA 2026 federal aid project. So that is to start the design work for Baby Creek Bridge that was in our 5-year plan. Rockport Bridge, that is just south of Bowling Lane. We were awarded that project in the NOFA 2025 call. So that is under design at this time. And then in item number 5 from our local road and street, we have Sample Road Phase 1, Sample Road Phase 2, and our Hunters Creek Road Phase 2 and 3. Sample Road Phase 1 was let in April also. I believe it came in at 5 $5.4 million, which is under engineer estimate. Sample Road Phase 2 just went to letting on May 7th. It actually came in at 3.8, which was a lot lower than the engineer estimate. Reason for that is because Force Construction was the low bidder on both of those phases of the project. So they were able to provide us with a lower bid for Phase 2. They will be doing utility relocations throughout 2021. Main construction is 2022 for those for Sample Road. Hunters Creek Road Phase 2 and 3, it's under construction at this time. They actually have until November of 2022 to finish that project. It's Milestone Contractors is the contractor, but it's their goal to have that project finished at the end of 2021. Sorry if that
and just to
long.
No, that's exactly what I was hoping you'd give. And just to clarify, so for Sample Road, Phase 1 is east of I-69, and then Phase 2 is west of I-69. Is that the way it's broken up?
That's correct. Old 37 North to I-69 roundabouts is Phase 1. And then on the west side from Bottom Road to the I-69 roundabouts is Phase 2.
Thanks.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Any questions or discussion on the information that Ms. Ridge just provided? Yes, Ms. Hawk.
Just to say that every time she speaks, she just shares so much knowledge. It's just boom, boom, boom. I am so delighted that you are a part of county government and have been for so long. Just really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. All right. Do we have any public comment? Mr. Shelton.
Just ditto to Councilor Hawk. Ms. Reed does a wonderful job. Obviously, we work with her on the RDC, and she does a great job. She is really good at ferreting out extra money from NDOT, which we greatly appreciate. So I agree with you, Ms. Hawk. Kudos, Ms. Ridge.
Thank you, Jim.
Very good. Well, thank you for your comments, and couldn't agree more with what has already been said. So we will we'll do a roll call vote.
On the motion to approve fund-to-fund cash transfers as set out on the agenda for the purpose to establish highway grant projects. Counselor Munson?
Yes.
Counselor Deckard?
Yes.
Counselor Hawk?
Yes.
Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor McKim?
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Okay, and up next is the Highway Department, item C.
Council, I move to approve the Highway Department's request to unencumber appropriations of certain projects which have been established in highway grant funds and are no longer needed. The funds and amounts are detailed on the agenda, item 11C, sections 1 through 5.
Second.
All right, Ms. Ridge, any additional information for us on this?
Now, it's pretty self-explanatory. It just, when we set up the 2021 budgets, we had encumbered these amounts into these project lines. And since we'll be using the new grant fund lines, then we needed to unencumber these appropriations.
This will wrap up that whole process, right?
I hope so. I know Kim hopes so too. We've met a lot, and so I really appreciate her help in getting these set up. I know it's more accounts for us to follow in the department, but it's the way it's supposed to have been and with the State Board of Accounts. So I'm sure they'll be thrilled that we're work to get everything updated, and it'll satisfy any of their future audits.
Yeah, well, thanks for working with everybody on this. Do we have any other questions or comments from council members? Do we have any public comment? All right, we'll do a roll call vote, please.
On the motion to unencumber appropriations as set out on the agenda for the Highway Department. Counselor Spoonmore?
Yes.
Counselor Iverson?
Yes.
Counselor Wiltz?
Yes.
Counselor McKim,
Yes.
Counselor Munson,
Yes.
Counselor Deckard,
Yes.
Counselor Hawk.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, and up next, we've got an update from Ms. Shell, our council administrator, on a few items. Take it away whenever you are ready, Ms. Shell.
Thank you, Council. First off, I want to introduce our intern, which is Colby Wicker. We've got him. Hi, Colby. And we've got him from now until the end of August, somewhere along and through there. So I've already put him to work helping Counselor Munson with the Sophia Travis grant process. And we just kind of started today working on getting budgets and prep for the forms and that kind of thing. So he's kind of, jumped in, head first. And so hopefully I won't scare him off too bad. So if anybody has any questions or would like to speak with Colby.
Well, yes, thank you for the introduction. Mr. Wicker, my understanding you're a student at IU, right? In School of Public Environmental Affairs?
Yes, sir. Yes. I'm
right.
pursuing a dual degree with the College of Arts and Sciences in history, and I'm pursuing a law and political policy degree in SPIA. Yes.
All right. Terrific. Well, that's my alma mater. So no doubt you'll be fantastic.
I'll try my best.
All right. Ms. Hawk.
Welcome aboard.
Yes, I just have to say, I am so delighted that Mr. Wicker has decided that he would intern here with Monroe County government, because he is such a delight, and I've never seen him back away from any challenge. He will absolutely be the best help. And this young man's going places, so I'm glad he's going to spend some time with us before he sets sail on the rest of his journey.
All right. Very good. Very good. Yeah, well, welcome aboard, Mr. Wicker. And I know I speak for everyone when I say that we all look forward to working with you.
Yes, and I wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity. I certainly really look forward to working with all of you. And if there's anything I can do for any of you individually or together as the council, I would be more than happy to do so. So please just reach out. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Shell.
So my next thing that I would like to speak about is the job description, classification, and salary review. Margie and I had a Zoom meeting last week, and just asking some questions, getting an update on where we're at. And as of then, last week, they're still on target to deliver finished job description reviews, updated classifications, and a salary study. We have one department that they're needing clarification on with regards to supervisory duties and some confusion on changing titles. So I'm meeting with that department tomorrow and getting that clarification sent to them. And then that should allow them to finish up the review process. So the plan is to have WIS, they're going to have this done by the end of June. And so I believe that the plan is then that WIS will come to the July meeting at some point and then give a presentation, present to you their findings and go over all of that information. So, but as we get closer to June, we'll narrow down when they'll be able to do that. So.
Great.
And then moving on, because that the salary schedule kind of goes in with the next subject, which is our 2022 budget. And normally by this time we've had, a couple, 3 or 4 discussions of COLA increase. And so I don't believe what I'm going to request is I think we should hold off on having any type of a COLA discussion at this time. Just until we find out where we stand with the WIS study and the salary. So I would like to find out if it's okay with you guys as the council as a whole. I need to distribute salary grids so that departments can begin budgeting, with regards to personnel. We have a required form that needs to be filled out, which is the Form 144, which is, it's the salary, it's a statement of salaries and wages, for each department. And it tells, we're statutorily supposed to fill this out, and then for the auditor's office. And then the auditor is to present that to the commissioners so that they can have an opportunity to look and give a recommendation of what they see as needed as an increase. But what I would like to do is provide a static salary grids for 2022, which means no increase, exactly where everything's at. And then that way they can go ahead and start budgeting, start filling out the required information. And then if and when we get to that point of making a recommendation for the salary grids, then we'll make all those updates and changes at that time. So I just wanted to know if it was okay to move forward with just presenting to the departments a static salary grids for them to be able to budget.
Yeah, well, I think that sounds like a very prudent approach at this point. Let's check and see how others feel about it. Mr. McKim?
Yeah, I completely agree that it's a prudent approach. I mean, the whole point of the COLA is when you have a base that you can rely on, that you then don't want that base to sink below the level of inflation. And at this point, if we're already actively working on fixing the base, then yeah, it makes no sense to be talking about a percentage increase on something that we agree doesn't make any sense. So yeah, please proceed.
Yep, sounds good to me. Any other, Mr. Deckard and then Ms. Wiltz?
Thank you very much. As I recall, in our communication with departments, we indicate the thinking behind the static grid that they've got, and that future determination is made. If I remember that right, is that correct, Michelle?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I've tried to communicate with the departments, that we don't know yet where we're going to land with the salaries, just because we are still, waiting for that information from WIS. So, but this allows them to go ahead and start the process, start getting numbers in and that kind of thing, so that we can go ahead and start getting like the categories for the supplies, the categories for the services and that kind of thing. But knowing that we'll have to come back and fix the personnel part at some point.
Got it. Ms. Wiltz?
I actually was slightly differently phrased, going to say what Councilor Deckard just said. I do think it's important that we preface whatever you send out with kind of our thinking on this. I know that it might be relatively obvious, but it's also an important personal topic for every county employee. So
exactly. So anything else on that line?
No, I think you feel like you've got sufficient guidance on that. Okay, perfect.
Yes, on that one I do. So with that, we also talk about the health insurance cost per position. And so I've been speaking with Angie about that. And right now it is still too early to determine what that amount is going to be. For the last 2 years, we have been at $10,500 per position. And that is the employer portion that we gather to put into our self-insurance fund. Okay. So with that, Angie's saying that we will probably most definitely need an increase this year, but she's not sure where to put it or where it's going to fall. We're still having to wait for the third-party administrators to provide information, and we won't be able to get that until after the June totals have been completed. So I would like to, because we always like to just plug in a number so that we can kind of get an estimate. I would like to go with an estimated number of $11,000. And that can be changed. I have it so that if I change that number, it changes the entire numbers for the entire workbooks. And so we can change it up, we can change it down, and hopefully we get to change it down. But I would like to be able to use that number to just start our budgeting process, if that's okay too.
So in your communications about this with the commissioner's office, you feel like that's a number that can provide a pretty, given what we know now, good coverage for what we need.
Yes, yeah, because Angie and I talked about it, and that's the number we both agreed would probably be a good starting point for us.
Got it.
Since we have been, stationary with our current one for the last 2 years, we do know that there is going to be an increase. We just don't know how much.
That would be, off the top of my head, not a big percentage increase by any stretch.
No.
Okay, 5% or something like that. Any questions or comments? I think let's go ahead and go with that as well too.
Okay. Well, and that's all I have for tonight for the council office. So.
Okay, excellent. Any other questions or discussion on any of the information that Ms. Shell reported for us tonight from council? Okay, well, we will appreciate the update, and we'll continue to stay in touch on lots of budget stuff coming up here soon, and with stuff, and they're all related. Okay, next up is, well, we don't have any minutes tonight, do we? Okay, this is already a council comments, item 13, 7:09 p.m. Who has some closing remarks tonight? Mr. McKim, I saw your hand first.
Yes, and just so my I just wanted to remind everyone that the Treasury Department has come out with what they call, and I just love this kind of federal government doublespeak, the interim final rule on that's really what they call it, on the American Recovery Plan Act guidelines for the funding, the 29-point-something million funding that we're going to receive. I know Ms. Rice has already sent out some kind of a summary of a presentation that was given last night, but I encourage everybody to actually read the guidelines for themselves. It is 151 pages. And if you want to make this meeting longer, I'm perfectly happy to read it right now out loud if you'd like. But it's actually very useful in kind of understanding the types of expenditures that are going to be considered to be compliant and those that aren't. So I over the next week, just in your spare time, trying to fall asleep at night, I highly recommend that you do actually read those guidelines.
Grab a beverage and start reading the guidelines. Sounds great. Any other council comments before we adjourn this evening? Ms. Hawk, yes.
Yes, I just think that probably the lack of large participation at this meeting just might be tied to, many of them might be at the Monroe Fire District Commission board meeting tonight. So it would really be nice if we could figure out a way that could be at a different time. It's not up to us, of course, so that those of us and all of us have to vote on their budgets. And so It's clear that we need to make sure we understand what's going on there as we move forward with the budgeting process for that district. And I'm happy to see that some of the public has decided they might start participating in that as well. It's too late to complain about something after it's already happened. So if we all work together to have best knowledge and we try to share it, then that's about all we can do.
I don't know if it's and I agree. Not sure if it's the fire district meeting or if it's seems like the city council meets on a daily basis now. There may be some meetings going on over there too tonight. I believe they had something going on, plexus or something.
You think there's annexation going on, or?
I don't, it's hard to say. It's hard to keep up with a lot of what's going on. Okay, any other comments before we adjourn our meeting this evening? Seeing none, oh yes, Ms. Wiltz.
You have a comment, don't you? In the script.
Do I have a comment?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, I do. And sorry about that. Boards and commissions. We did receive notification from Tony Satilli that he will, he's resigned his appointment to the Food and Beverage Tax Advisory Commission. So we do have an opening there. And there is a appointment process that has to be officially followed for that. I appreciate Michelle sending out that information as a reminder for all of us so we understand how that process works. And I want to thank Mr. Satilli for his service on that important commission. And yeah, we'll start looking to identify a new member. Any questions about that? We'll keep everybody posted. Yes, Ms. Hawk.
Yes, when we discuss it, we need to remember what the guidelines are and be reminded of that so that we're all on the same. Seems to me, I recall it was they have to be one of the owners. Is that correct? Or what?
General
owners or managers.
General managers or owners.
Restaurateur, general manager, owner, yeah.
Because some owners are distant. And so they include general managers.
Yeah.
So that we can have a local presence.
I think it kind of works that way with the innkeepers group as well too, the CVC.
Which Tony is also a member of. So
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have
He was very busy. I'm glad he's able to reclaim some time, and he did a great job on that group. So wish him all the best going forward. Thanks again to Tony.
Still.
Yep. All right. Well, if there's nothing further, we will stand adjourned until next time. See you all later. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.